Karl Konrad and welcome to Australian Immigration News. This program is proudly brought to you by Australian Immigration Law Services, the company I founded in Sydney more than 25 years ago. Well, it was inevitable that the Significant Investor Stream visa, known as the 188C, was going to be axed. The death knell had already sounded last year when the states were not allocated any sponsorship places to support it. However, when its closure was officially leaked by the Department of Home Affairs Minister this week, it was surprising that the media gave it so much attention. SBS ran this story saying that the visa was scrapped because it was exploited by corrupt foreign officials and criminals. However, if that was the case, it would have been scrapped many years ago. The reality was that it wasn't bringing in the sort of capital and business expertise that governments had hoped for. However, that did not stop the shadow immigration minister trying to grab 10 seconds of fame in the news cycle, claiming the Labor Party should have been more transparent in their migration policies.
Let's bring in the shadow immigration minister, Dan Tehan now. Dan, what do you think about this visa being quietly scrapped? Good to see you, by the way.
Good to see you, Pete. What we need to see from the government is far more transparency when it comes to immigration. Are they scrapping this visa? What are the reasons? Are they integrity reasons? If they're integrity reasons, absolutely, they have to be front and central of everything you do in immigration.
Of course, his comments were somewhat amusing since it was the Liberals who managed this visa scheme for the last decade. They oversaw all the suspicious elements of this visa and did nothing. New South Wales this week finally opened its 491 Pathway 1 sponsorship program. This pathway allows direct applications to the New South Wales government. As New South Wales put in their media release, this pathway aims to facilitate skilled professionals who are already making significant contributions to the dynamic community and economy of New South Wales. To apply directly under Pathway 1, you must be currently living and working in a designated regional area of New South Wales and continuously done so for the last 12 months. You must demonstrate skilled employment in the 12 months immediately before applying with these conditions attached. It must have been with a single regional New South Wales-based employer, and it must be in your nominated occupation or closely related one, and deemed skilled by New South Wales, and paid a minimum salary of $70,000, which can be prorated if under 38 hours a week. Remember that New South Wales still does not follow the immigration policy and other states and territories regarding the work experience you can claim. They have their own policy regarding deeming dates. Please check their website carefully, and if you're still not sure, please book a time to talk to us. This week, the government announced a new Pacific Australia Labour Mobility Scheme allowing family members to come to Australia as well. This will offer 200 Palm Scheme workers the opportunity to bring their family members to Australia, starting with the long-term workers from Kiribati and Timor-Leste. The government stated in its press release, this initiative will reunite Palm Scheme families and deepen connections between Australia and the region. It recognises the important contribution Palm Scheme workers make to the essential sectors and regional communities across Australia. This announcement does honour the election promise to expand and improve the Palm Scheme. The number of workers in Australia now has nearly doubled since the Labor government came to power. The first selection process under this scheme started from yesterday, the 26th of January, a good way to start Australia Day. Despite all the fanfare about how protection visas will be processed in real time and more staff added to this section, the government is still unable to keep up with the applications coming in. The government is reporting on these figures every month, but last month the figures indicated that 1,942 subclass 886 onshore protection visas were lodged, but only 1,000 were finalised. The data also demonstrated that only 3.28 visas were granted to Indian passport holders, 18.07 to Chinese passport holders, but 93.6 of Myanmar applicants were granted their protection visas, which is probably very understandable. Recent statistics came in for the number of 482 visas granted under the Aged Care Labour Agreement the Labor Party introduced last May. I feel sorry for the Immigration Minister, for it seems the program has been a resounding flop so far. According to an article in The Australian this week, Just 155 visas have been granted out of the potential 14,000 available over the next 5 years since the program began. The minister said so far 34 employers had applied to be part of that agreement. So in all fairness, I guess it will take time for their approvals and then visa applicants to apply. Let's check in another 4 months after the program has been going on for 12 months in total. This week, Canada has taken a decisive approach to reduce the number of international students arriving there. They have announced a cap on numbers on student visas, some 34% lower over the next 2 years compared to current levels.
Over the past few years, we've seen a massive increase in the number of international students, and that's why we are steadying the numbers for the next 2 years so that we can make sure that international students can fully benefit from their time here in Canada, and that our system is able to manage and handle them in the right ways. This is part of what a responsible government must do to ensure immigration continues to function smoothly and Canadians continue to support it.
So should Australia be doing the same? In many ways, a cap is a more honest approach for those looking to lodge applications rather than the current Australian way of using the genuine temporary entrant test as an excuse of refusing applications. A typical example of this indiscriminate GTE refusals comes from Shabu, who wrote in disgusted at the way his daughter was refused her student visa. He wrote, "Rather shocked after knowing my daughter's student's visa was refused due to SOP not mentioned clearly. The actual problem was not regarding SOP. The Australian government wanted to reduce international students. After getting 8 points for IELTS, a 30% scholarship for the entire course, why was she rejected? Just unbelievable. Never expected this from the Australian government in rejecting a brilliant student from getting the visa. Very bad." Clearly a very, very disappointed father. Now, for those of you who are not aware, the SOP is the Statement of Purpose. This is required so case officers can assess the genuine temporary entrant test. After this comment, we decided to hunt down the Immigration Department's manual in how to process student visa applications. In particular, how and what instructions are given to case officers in order to assess the GTE using these SOPs. In a recent Freedom of Information request release, we discover in the Operations Manual there is a whole page dedicated to the GTS assessment steps. We first thought, fantastic, now we can get to the bottom of how they are processing the GTE in student visas. However, when we scrolled down to page 12 of this PDF document, look what we discovered. The whole GTE assessment steps have been redacted. What a disgrace when it comes to the lack of transparency this Department of Home Affairs has become under this current minister. We see no difference in how this department is operating. It is just as bad as the Liberals. I'm getting very tired of our international visitors continually being blamed for the housing crisis, of not enough places to rent, particularly when the media does not focus on the fact that 1 million houses stand empty in Australia. Yes, you heard that right, 1 million. The Treasurer was on Sky News outlining his plans to get more of these empty houses onto the rental market.
Another part of this migration overhaul is Labor cracking down on so-called ghost houses. I have listened to Jim Chalmers. He spoke to Sky News this morning and gave some details on what the government intends to do.
It's about boosting housing stock and getting more homes onto the rental market. First of all, tripling foreign investment fees for established homes, then doubling the vacancy fee for homes owned by foreigners.
However, why is the Treasurer just picking on foreigners? All empty houses should be targeted. Unfortunately, what does not get discussed is the number of homes used for short-term rentals, such as Airbnb. We know there are at least 360,000 of them. That is 360,000 properties that could be somebody's home. You may be surprised to learn that politicians as a profession own more investment properties than most. According to a recent publication in your investment property. 86% of politicians have one investment property, and most owning at least two. In the article, 2 former immigration ministers are in the top 4 politicians who own the most investment properties. Our former immigration minister, Karen Andrews, takes the number 1 spot. She owns 6 with her husband. Tony Burke, leader of the House and Employment Minister, has 4 investment properties. Our PM, Anthony Albanese, has 1 investment property in Dulwich Hill. And Peter Dutton, the opposition leader and of course the former immigration minister, owns 2 properties. It would be nice to know, for the sake of transparency, how many of these investment properties owned by politicians are being offered to the Australian community as a home they can live in. And here is the compliment of the week. Wajo writes in and says, "Hi Karl, you're doing a good job. At the beginning when I started my research, I followed 4 to 5 channels, but after 1 whole year, I only rely on your channel." Thanks Wajo. A comment like this makes me feel all the effort to produce these videos is really worthwhile. And thanks to all of you who write in and say such kind words. Wajo is just one of the dozens we get each week on the channel. Now, we have received quite a number of videos from the 476 applicants who were subjected to having their applications ceased. To all of you asking for a video just about the unjust 476 ceasing of applications, it is coming and I'm working on it, so possibly by next weekend. Well, that's all from me for another week. Remember, if you need help, please go to our website to book a time, but if it's urgent, call the office and talk to Pat or Hay to possibly make an urgent time for you. Hope you're all enjoying your long weekend for those in Australia. And as always, take care out there and I'll see you next time. So bye for now.